spotlight my video. All right. Here we go, kids. So just come to find a comfortable seat, whatever that means to you. You too, Momo. And just take a moment to kind of settle in, maybe getting a support for underneath your pelvis. And then we'll just take a moment, maybe even closing your eyes here, to be particular about the posture that you will hold. And begin by rooting down through your sits bones into the ground. And maybe even noticing the conversation that the ground is having with your body in this moment. And then from this place, rooting down through the pelvis, begin to reach up through the vertebrae of the spine, all the way up to the crown of the head. And then from this place, start to tuck the chin slightly in to reach the spine even longer. As you start to broaden out through the collarbones and then roll the shoulder blades down the back. And then from here, you can start to bring the tip of the tongue to the back of your teeth. And then we'll all take an inhale through the nose. And then on your next exhale, start to release the air out of the nose while making an internal sound of Om. Inhale through your nose. And then when you're ready to exhale, continue to breathe out through your nose while still making the sound of Om. And then last time, breathe in through your nose. And then when you're ready, releasing an internal sound of A-U-M for your final exhale. And when you're ready, you can start to bring your hands to your heart and bow your head towards your heart center to set an intention for your practice. Something you can take the time now to honor that can be your anchor throughout our time together. And then we'll take a round of breath together to seal our intention collectively. Inhaling through the nose. And then an exhale, either through the nose or through your mouth. And then you can start to release your hands and return back into our virtual space. All right. So today we are going to be working with the third part of Kriya Yoga. So the past couple of weeks, and I've also repeated this theme just because I feel like in particular now is our time for outward yoga, because a lot of our practice is about kind of being introspective and curious and using our yoga as a self-care practice. But there's a part of yoga that is also it's our yoga for community and yoga for our relationships. Momo agrees. And so the third part of Kriya Yoga that we'll work with today is known as Ishwara Pranidhana. And essentially it means, like, translated, like dedication or devotion to, like, it. So Ishwara is like Lord, Supreme Being, or God. And I've kind of expanded that into like something greater or bigger than us. And I love this definition. So I've been really into the sutras described by Satyananda. And he talks about, and so he says, the last part of Kriya Yoga is simple but great. It is surrendering to the Supreme Being. I understand this to mean dedicating the fruits of your actions to God or to humanity, God in manifestation. Dedicate everything, your study, your japa, which means repetition, your practices to the Lord or something bigger than yourself. When you give such things to something bigger, the Lord, God, or humanity, God in manifestation, accepts them, but then gives them back many times magnified. You never lose what you have given. Even virtuous, meritorious deeds will bind you in some form or other if you do them with an egoistic feeling. Every time you do something, feel, may this be dedicated to the Lord or to humanity or something bigger than myself. If you constantly remember to do this, the mind will be free and tranquil. Try not to possess anything for yourself. Temporarily keep things, but feel you are just a trustee, not an owner. And I've been really like into this idea that like our yoga practice is not just for us. It really is for like the liberation and enlightenment of and like the alleviation of suffering for our communities or for the whole planet. And so while we practice today, right, knowing that like there's a lot of stuff that you're doing within your own personal life and individually on your mat that is for you, while also being open to the idea that by you practicing for you, that you're actually practicing communally, or you're practicing for the community. There's like a concept, right? Like if you regulate your own nervous system, the nervous systems around you will regulate to the most calm nervous system, right? This is, and so this is why there's these encouraging practices of, right, like do the work to regulate your own nervous system so that other folks can pick up on that. And so dedicating to like the universal nervous system that we're all trying to regulate, and have it has access to like calm and peace and tranquility. All right. So the first shape that we're going to do is a restorative child's pose. So I'll give you lots of options, like I normally do. And so you'll have your big toes to touch, knees wide. If it feels like at all uncomfortable on the top of your feet, you can roll your blanket or fold your towel in half and then roll it. And kind of at whatever height feels okay, you can bring it underneath the ankles like this. It's like a nice little padding. And then you'll bring a bolster or a pillow. And if you just have a bolster or pillow, you just stack them on top, or you can bring the bolster vertically, which is something that I love doing. Or if you have like just one pillow and a couple of blankets, you can start to stack them on top of the pillows or bolster. And then you'll bring like the bottom ribs towards the edge of the prop, and then you'll start to rest the head down. So you can either bring forehead down, or what I like to do is just turn my nose to one side, and then just let yourself be held by the props underneath you. So take your time to be particular about how you want to set up the shape. Because we'll hold it for a couple of rounds of breath, and so trying to get yourself as close to comfortable as you can. And so as you start to kind of set up the shape, once you've found a place to hold and to settle, begin to kind of just take notice of the body you're in and what your body is bringing into this moment. And maybe noticing if there's any gripping or holding that's happening within your physical body. And then can you start to release or soften into those places? Maybe even sending those places into the ground as you begin to rest here. Becoming still in the body as you let the supports of the props and the ground underneath you hold you. And then once you've started to settle here, continue to keep your body in your awareness, but then start to shift your attention to your breathing. So noticing each inhale as the breath enters the nose, as well as noticing each exhale as the breath enters the nostrils, or exits the nostrils, excuse me. And just watching the breath here, maybe noticing the subtleties and asking yourself, what is the texture of my breath in this moment? What is the temperature? Where does my breath go? How does my breath leave? Knowing that there's no right or wrong answers, just something to be curious about while you start to notice your breath. Almost imagining that you are breathing for the first time. And then from here, continue to keep your whole breath in your awareness, but then shift your attention to being with the exhale. Especially the space at the bottom of the exhale right before you pause and transition to the inhale. And just bringing your attention there to when you breathe out. As you continue to hold this shape and be in this experience, can you continue to bring your attention towards the pause or the extent of your exhale? And then when you're ready, if your nose is to one side, you can start to lift the head and then turn the nose to the opposite side. And then once again, letting your body settle here, softening into the props underneath you. Becoming curious about the conversation and the dialogue that's happening with your body and the supports that you are resting on. While making a quicker transition to being with your exhale. And to be with your exhale, it could just be that you are experiencing the sensations of breathing out. That you could be with the air on your skin as it exits the nostrils. Maybe noticing the feeling tone that happens each time you breathe out. Or maybe if it's more helpful, just consciously noting, I am breathing out. Or exhale. And then when you're ready, we'll start to bring the hands around the prop. And then start to kind of come back bringing your hips over your knees. And then come to sit on your heels once again, or find a comfortable seat while I just show you the next shape. So we'll do a restorative downward facing dog. So I'll give you a couple of options. So the first option is with your chair. And especially if there's like any tightness in the low back, or if you're like recently, like if your low back has not been happy, this is the shape that I suggest for you. And you can start by just bringing the hands to the edge of the chair, and then you'll make like an L shape with the body without trying to like sink into the shoulders, but having a really long torso. And then you can play around with where you'd like the hands on the chair, whether you want it on the seat or the back, and moving the hands down. But just picking a spot where you feel like you can hold this and that it feels like comforting. Again, restorative postures are where we want to be able to settle the nervous system and rest. So that's one option, especially if there's low back stuff. The next option is using the stack of pillows and blankets that you have, and you might have to like kind of find your own system. What works for me in my body is I put a bolster and then 2 blankets, but you can always bring like blocks underneath the bolster, and you'll come into all fours onto the top of the bolster, like so, and my hands are about halfway. And then you'll start to tuck the toes, straighten the legs, and then I'll stretch back, and then release the crown of the head onto the supports like in front of you. And then I can walk my hands forward and then just kind of rest here. And I honestly could lift up both hands, or like for the most part could lift up both hands here, so that there's not a lot of weight in the hands. It's mostly in the crown of the head and in the balls of the feet. So choose your shape. And again, know that there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever one seemed interesting to you, or felt like within your like challenge range, or like maybe the challenge for you is to take the easy, or not the easy, but like the most supported one. And just once you start to align yourself into a shape, beginning to kind of settle in there. Regardless of the shape, it should feel more or less comfortable. Maybe not the most comfortable thing you've done, but it's not to a point where you feel any straining. That your body can kind of soften in here, and feel the support of either the chair or the props, as well as your breath can soften here. Your breath is a great gauge to know when it's too much or too little. If your breath feels strained at all, that's a sign to take a step back. If your breath feels pretty shallow or feels kind of comforting, then that might be your like Goldilocks spot. And then once you've settled into a shape, begin to settle into your exhale again. Having that be your anchor into the present moment that you can keep coming back to. Continually coming back to the exhale. And know once you're in this shape that if you need to transition out, you can always come down onto your knees and take a break. that the most important thing about this is that you are focusing on your exhale. And then imagine with each exhale, you are surrendering into something bigger than you. Using the exhale to release and let go. And imagining that with each exhale, you are dedicating your breath to something outside of yourself. With each inhale, we are bringing the outside in. And with each exhale, we are bringing the inside out. And so using your exhale to bring the magic or the healing that's happening inside, outside of yourself. Into the world that's ready to receive it. And we'll take 1 or 2 more full rounds of breath here. And then when you're ready, if you are on the props, you can just release your knees down to the floor. If you have the chair out in front of you, you can just start to like walk the hands back onto the chair and bring your hands onto your thighs to bring you back up to a standing shape. All right. So this next offering is we will be working with a forward fold. And you'll have to figure out in your body what feels important and good, or as close to comfortable as you can. And so I'll give options, especially for my low back folks, just because I've started to recover from a low back injury. I've had to be pretty like gingerly about my yoga practice. And so the options here are if you have a chair, right? Or like a table, you can just bring the chair underneath you, and especially if it's low back stuff. My preference for you is to have a like long back, right? So my spine is really long and extended here, that I'm actually not forward folding, because that can be a lot on the low back, especially if it's been overused and underloaded. And so just staying here in this shape with the hands underneath the shoulders. So that's one option with the chair. Another option is bringing the hands onto blocks if you have them. And again, low back stuff, keep the spine extended. If there's no difficulty in the low back and it feels kind of luxurious for you, you can release into a forward fold. But then use the props that you have, right? Whether it's a stack of books or the yoga pillows and stuff, to bring a support underneath your head, so that you can kind of let your body hang here. And you'll try to stack your hips over your heels so that we're not sinking back, right? So that there's still this like forward motion. And so there's bricks that you can bring underneath your head. You can also bring the yoga props. My spine does not reach that long. But you can always bring like books or bricks underneath pillows and bring it like so. Oh, that feels really nice. And so again, kind of choosing the shape for you. And we'll hold this for like maybe 2-3 minutes. And then so like, you know, playing around with your props, what's great is like you're in your own space and you've got all of your own like props or things you get to imagine as props. And so just taking the time to like really be particular about how you want to honor your body in this moment. And just taking the time here to root down into the feet as well as the head where it's making contact. If it's making contact with the props, or if you're just using the hands and coming into an L shape, just being particular about noticing how you are supported here in your physical body. And then once again, moving your attention from the body to your breath, specifically coming back to your exhale. And using each exhale to let you soften into the shape a little bit more, right? That each exhale gets to be your like overt manifestation of surrendering. Right? The Pranidhana is like you're willing to dedicate or give yourself or surrender into something that includes you but isn't about you. That you get to be a part of this experience and recognize your, what my supervisor likes to call like your beautiful insignificance. And using each exhale as your reminder. Continue to come back to your exhale. As you continue to surrender into the shape and surrender into your breath. Dedicating each exhale to something bigger and greater than an individual experience on your mat, and instead to a collective experience on our mat. All right, so from here, start to bring if your hands are underneath your shoulders, just keep them there for the time being. If your hands are on your shins, you can start to walk your hands up your legs. And then from here, if you have the space, actually, I'm just gonna have everybody come out. And then so just start to bring your hands on your thighs if they're not already there, and then push your hands into your thighs and then come to stand. All right. So the next shape we're gonna work with is a wide leg forward fold that I'm gonna try really hard to put myself in the viewfinder. If you have a strap, great. If you don't necessarily need one. It's just nice feedback. I'll show you what we'll do with a strap. So you'll make a really big loop. So in through both, over and out, okay? And then the strap will go around the outsides of your feet. So I'll show it. So, okay. Like this. And then you'll step your feet out wide. Turn your toes slightly in so that they're pigeon-toed. And the strap is nice because it's nice feedback, and essentially what I'm trying to encourage is that the outside of the feet are pushing down to the ground. All right, so if you don't have a strap, that's okay. We'll still be in the same shape, so just zip your feet out wide. And we'll start, and you can either, right, bring a chair in front of you, if that feels comfortable. Let me do it this way so you can see me to the side. I have a very slippy carpet, so we'll see how this goes. Okay. So I'm just not going to stand as wide. Okay, so you'll stand in a wide leg forward fold, and you can have a chair in front of you. And again, low back stuff, just a really long extended spine. If it feels good for you to forward fold and it doesn't feel like there's like a pulling that's happening, you can use the chair in front of you to bring your head down. And then you can, it's like the space like between the hairline and the crown of the head. Feels really good for me. So you can use the chair, or right, you can kind of use the props that you used before to be underneath the head, and you can have your hands dangle, or what I was doing previously was I had the hands on the outside of my heels as I rested down. For me, it's a bit more comfortable to have my legs out wider. And then you'll rest here. So come to find your standing wide leg forward fold. And then you can choose, right, a chair or a table. Coffee tables work great, or a couch. Making all new uses for the furniture you have in your house. And then once you've kind of settled into this shape, being particular about pressing through the outsides of your feet, and then feel as if the outside of the knee is pulling up towards the outer hip. And so there's still activation that's happening in the legs, so that the legs are really strong here. As you start to kind of settle into this shape. And settle into your exhale. And know that if your mind's attention wanders to something other than the exhale, know that that's absolutely normal. But in yoga, we encourage, right, that your mind has somewhere to keep coming back to, that it has something to tether to practice paying attention and building that concentration muscle. Because when you continue to come back to the exhale on your mat, you're strengthening that skill to access your exhale when you're off of your mat. Using your exhale as an offering here in this moment, and knowing that it's an offering in every other moment, as long as you remember. Wherever you are, come back to your exhale. And then slowly start to transition out of this shape where you toe heel the feet together. And release the hands down towards the floor or towards your legs. And then use the hands on the thighs to push yourself up into a standing shape again. And then we'll make our way down to the floor. And so we'll move into a forward fold sitting sequence. And so I use a prop here. So let me backtrack. So if when you sit like so, and your low back has a tendency to go out like this, it makes forward folding a bit challenging, or it makes like the extension of the spine not as long, that you're putting a lot of it in the low back rather than the whole spine. So if you feel any of that rounding in the low back, use a blanket, the edge of a pillow, or your bath towel, and then bring your sits bones on the blanket and then move forward. And you'll see, like, I have this like natural curve, or it encourages the natural curve of my low back. All right. So, and then you'll take the feet out wide. So it's just kind of like we were doing in that standing shape, but now we'll do it wide-legged. And again, if you have a chair, just bringing your torso on the chair. Low back stuff, you're just going to focus on keeping the spine extended like so. The low belly pulled in. If you would like, you can, and it doesn't feel like too much strain on the low back, you can start to forward fold onto the base of a chair. If you have the setup, you can bring your bolster or pillows onto the chair and rest like that. And you'll notice, so like the upper back for me likes to curl out. You want to also bring that towards the prop so that the spine can still stay really long. It's just to like, we do so much of this, so to extend the spine long gives our spine options. And then you can play around with like, okay, do I want it to closer to the ground? Or again, on the ground? But you get to decide. So take like the next minute or so to like find a shape that feels comfortable for you, that you can rest into. And then from here, right, being particular about feeling really strong in the legs, and then pointing the big toes up towards the sky. Pressing out through the heels, and then feel as if there's this like energy pulling up towards the hip crease as you lean the heart forward. Wherever you are, whether you're on the chair or the props, that the legs can still be active while you forward fold and melt the heart into the sports that you have. And then continue to keep your body and your awareness. And then start to shift your attention once again to the magic of your breathing, specifically the surrendering tone of your exhale. Letting your exhale be your release. Let it soften you from the outside in, as well as from the inside out. That your exhale gets to be a whole body experience. as you continue to offer your breath into the world. Continue to come back to your exhale as you continue to soften into this shape and soften into your experience here. Take maybe like 5 more rounds of breath. Letting yourself soften here, but also become a bit more cognizant of the transition. And then when you're ready, bringing your hands either on the prop or on the floor to help bring your torso up. And then start to move the props off to the side. And point up. So the next shape, okay. So from here, start to bring your legs together, and we'll just sit up in Dandasana while I talk through this. So Dandasana, your hands are by your sides, you're just reaching up through the crown of the head, and you're growing the spine long. So the options here, so we're gonna move into head of knee pose. Oh, you're so in the way. Okay. And so what will happen is you'll bring one of the knees up to the side. I like to pull my leg out like a curtain and then bring the foot towards the inside of the thigh. And then you'll turn to this leg. And then here are the options. So this is why I love these like office chairs or like foldy chairs, is that you bring it on top of the leg and then you just rest here. And you can always put a blanket or something to like soften into it. And again, right, prioritizing the spine and the heart moving forward and then resting here. So there's that. If you do not have a chair, or that the chair doesn't feel easy to just like throw over your foot like so, you'll bring like a prop to the inside of the extended leg, and you'll bring however many props you need to like have the props lifted, and then you'll start to reach up through the crown of the head, pull the belly towards the prop, and then start to shift the heart forward, and then release the head down. And so just take the time to like settle or like use the props that you need. Another way is like that I was doing earlier because my back is a bit tight. If I have a block or a brick on top of the like props that I have, and then come to rest forward. So if you're not already there, bring the left leg out to one side, and then we'll bring the foot to the inside of the thigh. Extend the right leg forward, and then press the toes up towards the ceiling. So you want really like alive and awake toes here. And then bring the props to you, right? Whether it's a chair or if it's the bolster and blanket. And I like to have it at a slight diagonal away from the leg, but you can decide if you want it right next to it or not. And then reach your heart forward and then let the heart sink onto the prop. As you melt the head and heart forward. Letting your body surrender into this shape. As you surrender into every moment with your exhale. And if you can imagine that each exhale is an offering, going a step further and being curious about what you would like to offer with each exhale. Maybe it's a sensation or a feeling tone or a specific word like love or calm or peace or resistance in a good way. Right. Imagining with each exhale that you're giving a gift that was not meant for you, but meant for something outside of you that only you can offer. And when you're ready with your next inhale, we'll slowly start to lift the torso off of the props. And then start to bring the left knee up or the bent knee up, and then extend the foot out in front of you. And then moving the props. Right, you'll figure it out. Everybody has a different setup, so it's hard for me to cue everybody, but I try. And then maybe extending your legs out and giving them a good shake. And then we'll transition onto the other side. So hooking the hands underneath the leg you haven't bent yet, and then bring it out to the side. And then bring the foot towards the inside of the thigh. And the cue that I love to say is you have two very different sides, so kind of honor the needs of both sides. So you get a chance to be pretty curious and practice the thing we came up with last week, the self-study of knowing what each side means. And so just taking your time now to settle in with your knowledge of the props that you have and the knowledge you have of your body, and settling into a shape on the side. can start to invite the possibility of finding comfort here. As you rest in each exhale. As you rest in each gift you have to offer. And then continue to bring your attention to the softness of your exhale. As well as knowing that with each exhale, right, it spontaneously happens. That you keep offering things out into the world spontaneously. And that you consistently have something to offer with each breath. And when you're ready, we'll take maybe 1 or 2 more full rounds of breath. And then slowly using your hands around the props to bring your torso back up to center. And then bring the bent leg in. And then we'll bring both feet together, bending both knees. And then making your transition into your final resting shape. So coming to lie down on your back, or if you have a chair out in front of you, you can start to bring your shins on the base of the chair, like so. And again, if you have one of these foldy chairs, which are my absolute favorite, you can link your tops of your feet into the sides and just let the knees hang out. As you begin to bring your body into the ultimate pose of surrender, and eventually start to release your attention from your exhale to expand outward, to practice being in a state of pure awareness as best you can, and surrendering into the culmination of your practice. As we rest together in the final moments of class in silence and stillness. Begin to bring your attention back to your breath. And continue to stay in this lying down position as I read you some final words from Swami Satchinanda, where he says, "Let us all dedicate our lives for the sake of the entire humanity. With every minute, every breath, every atom of our bodies, we should repeat this mantra. Dedication, dedication, giving, giving, loving, loving. That is the best japa, repetition, the best yoga, which will bring us all permanent peace and joy and keep the mind free from the disturbances of chitta vrittis, or fluctuations of mind." And then when you're ready, inhaling through your nose, and a big exhale through your mouth. And then eventually, slowly making the transition to find a comfortable seat, whatever that means to you. And then you can bring your palms face down on your thighs, or your hands together in front of your heart. As I invite everyone to bow your head towards your heart center, to acknowledge that the point of our yoga is not for us as individuals, but is for us as the collective. And that if we continue to remember that our time on the mat is for the betterment of humanity, it brings purpose to our practice and helps us stay connected and devoted to something bigger than ourselves. Thank you so much for spending the time on your mat with me and dedicating your time here to something bigger. A big, deep bow of gratitude to every single one of you. Thank you.